Pinkertons Ghosts is a horror anthology podcast by Superversive Radio, with no affiliation with any detective agency, person, real or imagined, or the dark forces of Outre Terre. It is not intended for children.
Control. The ring was mine again. I could see the Outre Terre again. It was rough without it. Sometimes I'd lose an hour of time and could not account for it, nor tell you what I did. There's a need for baptism into the Outre Terre. It could be as simple as wandering into the haunted woods or experiencing some tragedy, but I needed a ring. The ring. It's smooth as gold, and I've never seen it deform or bend. It has a gem sometimes when the magic is strong, even if I can't see it. Sometimes it's a ring of snakes eating each other, just in the corner of my eye. But always, like the One Ring, it's a smooth gold band when I examine it. When I put it on, I see more, and more clearly. It's a waking nightmare in the wrong places. You know, those haunted corners of the earth so drenched in tragedy, can't even imagine it began with Adam's fall. It's how I imagine Troy's ground. I can't sleep with it on. The nightmares keep their distance when I'm awake, but not when I'm asleep. The task you set me to was to deliver a package and receive one from the Sisterhood of the Crown of Constantinople. I imagine you sent me to a sisterhood because 1, I can talk to women, unlike Jack, and 2, I won't hit on them. Well, it's a fair cop, Control. You're right. We were to meet at the Wickham Hall in Winter's agency outside of Newark. It's as seedy as I remember it. Maybe a few more homeless. Maybe. The building itself was a well-guarded, half-size warehouse that looked to be attached to a power plant, or, I don't know, Control. It's a building with a ton of wires and pylons. I don't know why I'm talking about this to you. Point is, it was a building that very much looked like anything else it should have been. I met the contact in the second most boring entrance hall I'd ever been in. My contact was one Lady Pallas Vadokos. Your information was fairly detailed. She was the head contact between Wickham Hall and Winters, and her own organization, and she had worked with our agents before on a case some time ago. She helped agents Carl and Cordell, who run most of the Appalachian cases now. Thank God Almighty for their hard work. But I wasn't fooled by her appearance. She was a beautiful woman, thin-shouldered and elegant, more flapper than anything else. She habitually wore a dress inspired by the Greeks, but just modern and long enough to serve in the wild American climate. Her fingers were covered in jewels, her neck wore strings of pearls, and she wore an honest-to-goodness tiara on her head. Her coiffure was, of course, inspired by Greek statues. What got me is the report that she had stabbed a Loup Garou, an agent of the Société Étrange. Now I expect Jack and whatever girl is lucky? No, I don't think that's the right word. Whatever girl is tough enough to marry him. Yeah, to stab a werewolf. She could not have been 100 pounds with her jewels. Or even double the jewels in gold, for that matter. I know that this was supposed to be a friendly exchange. We give each other some doctored files. I give over a fragment of the sword of Emperor Constantine Palaeologus, and she gives me some material stolen from us from the 2020 purge. Not to sound too full of myself, but she is probably one of the first women to look disappointed to see me. Besides you, Control. Usually, women look at a scar, my height, or, my missing eye with interest, intrigue, or a measure of pity. She was actually huffing. She ran a hand through white gold hair. Now, it was not a platinum blonde style, but a twined mix of white and gold I had never seen before. I was hoping Agent Cordell would be the one to make the exchange, Agent Sean Russo. I remembered the squat and not at all handsome man that I had met after his training under Jack and Jim. He was ecstatic I wasn't going to be screaming at him or making him do things to nameless things. He couldn't remember those things, but I assumed that was Jim being merciful. She brushed it off with a snap of her fingers. Her golden skin complimented her in the same way leopard print complimented a tanned blonde. Like Cynthia. No matter. Don't be so angry. I didn't mean it like that. She slipped around me and into the crook of my arm, smooth as the silk she wore. I'm sorry, She stepped forward, pulling me with her in such a way that my long stride made me lead her in the same step. This was a terrifying woman. No, Agent Russo, say nothing of it. We know. She stopped at the door to the warehouses deeper in. Her jewels flashed as she made certain hand signs. I even have something a little more for you, Agent Russo. Morgana has started moving in new ways, and I will give you something to lead you to the trail. My voice was lower than I like. Dangerous. Do you think Morgana? Her whisper was conspiratorial. No, but Morgana is wicked enough to do it. I know the look in your eye. I have seen it in better but also worse men. Sometimes, even for a Christian, the path of vengeance is given to us to walk. Maybe God is glorified, maybe evil is destroyed. So long as you do not sin, it is for God's glory. Someone has to pay. Morgana knew about Cynthia, and she wants to hurt me. No better way. She produced some sort of chit and waved it at a black pane of glass. Make them pay, I think that if you kill the murderer, maybe much evil will be prevented. God has his reasons. The opaque sliding door opened into a small foyer. It closed, there was a hiss of steam, and the two of us, me leading properly this time, walked into a large warehouse. Much larger than the building indicated. A thin man with a thick mustache greeted us. He said some nice things, but he stopped me before I followed Lady Kalas Vodokos deeper into the warehouse. Pardon me, sir, but are you wearing your famed ring? I showed it to him. Would you be willing to wear it on a chain? This warehouse is full of magical equipment. If you touch them, they would be denatured and, he looked embarrassed, worthless. He offered what looked like a silver chain as fair and as delicate as a spider web, but I waved him off. When I removed the ring from my finger, the shadows I was not bothering to notice diminished into their natural forms. Movements that I trained myself to ignore stopped like a car obeying a red light. I had my own chain I used when I slept, and I put it around my neck. If there is any funny business, Mr. Wickham, I am descended from the very same Charles Wickham that helped found this organization. He was very proud. I followed Lady Kalas Vodokos into a side room. It was open to the air and the shelving just through a thin wall of plaster, but it was secure enough. If you don't mind me asking, why here? I know Jack has stolen from them several times, but they don't seem to mind. She laughed as she dove into her purse almost as soon as she placed it on the table. It was far, far deeper on the inside, and her shapely calves stuck out of it. Mary Poppins would be jealous. Oh, that's Jack's a character. She handed out a sheaf of papers, which I took and placed down next to a water jug and glasses. We're astounded that he destroyed the Crossroads gambling den so easily. That thing has been operating since there were two roads at a right angle. Though we think it'll return sooner than later. Always does. Soon we had a pile of papers, small baubles, and things I'd assume were paperweights at the peril of my life. I was considering organizing things on the floor when her calves dipped all the way in. She leaped out of her purse with the force of a long jump. It was then that I noticed that while she was very thin, certain wires stood out on her frame. A sprinter, non-endurance runner. So, not all of this is yours. She did not seem apologetic at all. We helped our host break down a warehouse of theirs in Bucharest and moved it to a more secure location. That's the source of your documents, too, by the way. We recovered them, and it's really boring to do this sort of paperwork by yourself. I weighed it. She would probably hold that information she has a Margana over me if I refused. Cordal instead of me, huh? She winked. Hey, a lady has her schemes. Anything in Bulgarian or Romanian stays here. Anything in English goes with you. All the bubbles, too. I think they're magic items from Holt Lucari before his death. Well, not death, but you know. I nodded. I pulled out the briefcase. This is for you. It was much bigger than it needed to be to carry in the shard of Constantine Paleologus' sword. The whole thing was no more than a pebble, but it crackled with something. Well, I could see it without my ring. It emanated just a little light. The look in the petite woman's eyes was almost worship. Ah, your group did have a piece. She reverently picked it up and kissed it. This metal along one side, see? It was part of the cross that adorned it on either side. They say he held it up and the Ottomans fell back for a moment. I began shifting the papers around, looking for English. What's the sword going to do for you? Maybe nothing. Lady Kalis Vodokos placed the unassuming chunk of metal into one of her gems, a large amethyst, which had a latch. She tapped it with an elegant nail. Now the shard looked like it floated in the glowing purple hue. Maybe it drives back Islam. Maybe it just gives hope. We do not know, but it is the purpose of the organization, among others, to reunite it. She handed me a black folder that read Mother Morrow, Actions During the Voodoo War, August 2005. I resisted the urge to read it. Old Tom hinted at a voodoo war, but he never went deep into it. I see. It's a matter of faith. Devotion to God. The sword in the hand of a good man is as close to God as any but the martyr. And what is it that those evangelicals say? Prayer warrior. Haha. But then again, we do not see the legions of angels, do we, Agent Russo? I handed her a paper that had Soviet iconography and a very blacked-out paper. The few words I could read were in Romanian, or Bulgarian. I didn't know the difference. I leave that to God, Lady Vodokos. We talked as we worked. She seemed pleased enough, even if I wasn't the prize. We had arrived an hour after I had lunch, and the warehouse was not cooled. We drank the water, and then we drank more water. Lady Kalis produced a dinner in Tupperware. A thick beef stew with bread and a saffron rice dish. Delicious, but rich. My companion ate as much as I did after considering her size. I didn't feel like there were any soporifics in it. But I fell asleep all the same. In the dream, there were men and women screaming at me from tubs of wine. Or blood. Too many arms, too many bodies, too many vats of wine, deeper than oceans. Those that fell too deep were drowned by shadowy arms, reaching up from the inky blackness, like the things chained up under Hades' throne's floor. I hadn't thought of that place in a long while. I looked up, and there, above my head, was the homunculus. She was something I'd rather forget. Her face changed with the second. Now nothing, a blank idea of a female, then Violet, then Lady Vodokos, then Cynthia, then Control, then, I don't know. The homunculus's power, as best I understand it, is to copy your desires. I was asleep. I don't think I've ever seen you Control in any other way but my boss. The faces grew on each other. Flipping, sliding, flowing from state to state. Every woman I've ever known flickered through the... I want to call it an absence. You know the old saying, Control, about staring at the abyss. The abyss was staring back, and I thought I wasn't even giving it the side eye. The homunculus squatted above me, perched on the walls of our room, her tongue lolled out of Cynthia's head. It flopped onto my brow and wrapped itself around my head. It lowered snake-like until it found my neck. It jerked. With a snap, I awakened. Lady Kalis Vodokos was sprawled out on the table between us, barely kept modest by the grace of God. I was about to shake her awake when I heard a familiar voice. "Where are they?" "The cars are out there, Someone was mumbling to themselves. I heard a door open, then shut. "What's this?" "Oh." And a box was open somewhere close. It was the voice of the assassin magician, Alexander the Great. We'd met each other a few times over the years. Once he teamed up with my doppelganger to take the heart of Kronos. Jim beat him then. I did my work against my doppelganger. Did I take his ring then? Maybe. Memory lane is more fickle than any woman. Alexander the Great had a taste for theatrics stronger than a stockbroker's gambling addiction. I bent my head down. My ring was touching my chest. Somehow, someway, it had touched my skin and broken the spell. I kept it where it was. Instead of anything else, I lowered my head as if I was asleep and loosened my gun in my holster. I waited. He came closer, opening another door, then closing it. I could have laughed, put a smile on my face, anything really. Instead, I kept myself between wakefulness and sleep. The door behind me opened. Of course, Alexander could have just put a bullet into the back of my head. Alexander would have rather taken the bullet himself than do that. He walked around to face me. Still asleep. With a flourish, he produced a fine cloth napkin. He displayed it as if he had an audience. He then waved up and lowered the cloth over my head. In a blink, I was lost in a blank whiteness, an expanse of textured flatness without end. Then the flatness folded once, twice. I could see the creases. Before, I couldn't see the exit. Now I could see a definite end to the flat world Alexander hid me in. I got up off the chair. My feet sank into the napkin below. I smiled as I walked to the source of light. Gravity was a little odd, but I could climb the folds in the landscape. "And who are you?" He turned on his heels, an unmistakable scrape on the thin carpet. He had turned to look at the thin yet lovely form of Lady Pallas Vadokos. He was distracted. I found the end. I could see the shadows of the world larger than life. I stuck out my pinky finger into the light. The little finger expanded past the threshold. I brought it back and it shrunk. I could not stop smiling as I pulled out my gun. I stuck out my pinky again and tapped the table. Almost as soon as the sound was made, I retreated it back into the shadow of the magic napkin. He turned away from ogling the Lady Pallas Vadokos and to his napkin. He got closer and closer, bending to look at it. I poked out my gun. The barrel hovered larger than life for me, dangerously the right size for him. His eyes widened in realization. I fired. The casing was the right size, so I saw the bullet leave the barrel at the right size. He ducked back, falling. The bullet left a hole in the wall. Lady Kalash tried to wake up, but Alexander waved his wand and she fell back asleep. I moved like lightning, leaping out of the napkin, jumped onto the table and then the floor, fully sized before Lady Pallas's head hit the table again. Alexander was on his feet. He had a wand in his hand, but he was flat-footed. The hand is faster than the eye, after all, but the bullet to the brainstem is faster than either. I dodged to the side, leaving his wand pointing at nothing, and the gun was pointing at his brainstem. "Alex." "Alexander the Great, if you please, detective," he replied. I poked him with my gun barrel, and he dropped his black and white magician's wand. I leered into his blonde beard, purple contacted eyes, and up his large, dignified nose. "It's an absolute pleasure to see you, magician." He was sweating. He kept his white-gloved hands up. "Well, you do keep coming to these little shows of mine." "Let's talk. Where were you when Cynthia died?" What? Who's Cynthia?" "I'm investigating her murder, and I have a list of suspects a mile tall. And let me tell you, you're on the first sheet." I gave him a date and time. The date and time. "A magician, I'm not going to cock my gun to impress you. Unlike you, I had the theatrics trained out of me. Plus, I'm not sure God will call this murder, since you tried to ensorcel me. Why? Contract. Blood Money wants to see you, and, well, you weren't supposed to have the ring. And I once had a wedding ring, too, didn't I? Blood Money can wait. Let's talk about that instead. My voice raised up a little high there. Didn't want to lose my cool. Look. I was working with a heist crew at a casino in Atlantic City. It's how I make my money. There was a robbery that night. I was performing. You can check. If you say nothing up my sleeve, I splatter Lady Vidocos with your brains. She might even like it how she treats werewolves. No tricks. I'm going to pull out a set of real handcuffs, and you're coming with me. We have some questions about some dead Paranormal Pinkertons from 5 years ago. Jogging any memories? We're not murderers, Alex. We'll give you to days after we get what we want. I'm sure it's a fair trial or an easier cell to break out of, at least. This was the dangerous bit. Alexander the Great was a big man, and he certainly had tricks to play. I thought I was ready. I had to twist my body to reach into my coat pocket for a pair of handcuffs. Pressure on his jawline loosened, just enough. You know, Detective, you're right. I should have shot him then. There is nothing up my sleeve. The man twisted, shoving the gun into his sleeve. His eyes were desperate wide. I fired. Noise was deafening in the closed space. Lady Palas Vidocos woke up with a start, slid down under the table and pulled a golden decorated knife from somewhere impolite to talk about. I tried to kick out Alexander's knee. Instead, he stepped into it, shoulder-checking me. I staggered back, tripping over the chair I had used to ambush him. He ran for the door, kicking it open and charging out into the warehouse. I fired, but the shot went wild. He threw himself behind a rack of urns, each more ornate and Chinese-looking than the last. Bad luck to break one of these. I found a gap and ran into the shelves. Alexander's coattails led me deeper in. Any time I could, I got closer and closer. I could hear the clomping of his shoes, the whisper of his clothing as the man ran, and I couldn't hear his breath. I ran for the nearest exit. The fire alarm went off as someone pushed their wide body through an emergency door. The door slammed shut as I caught sight. Behind me, the clothing, shoes, top hat, coat and all hit a wall and collapsed. Well, he got away. I could have pursued, but he had a crossroads, several alleys, and the remains of a homeless camp to choose for a path. But I had what I wanted from him. It would have to do. Atlantic City is corrupt to the core, but there are ways to check whether even the slickest of magicians actually performed that night. Lady Palas Vidocos found me. After I explained the situation to her, she laughed. She produced a diamond the size of a couscous seed and planted it in his hat. Just in case the magician needs his tux back, I will keep abreast of his movements. Just say the word and I'll give you gospel. I thanked her and we swept the building. Wickham wasn't sensed by the intrusion, but otherwise okay. No bad long-term effects. We finished our work double time. Lady Palas Vidocos escorted me. She was a little too bold to be escorted herself, out to my car. She leaned into my car window like a ballet dancer, trusting that I would make eye contact despite her loose Grecian-style robe. She stretched with her fingers locked together and reaching straight out, cracking her shoulder blades. It was like watching two thin mountains rise up over smooth sand dunes. You're a cunning man to turn the tables on Alexander the Great. He's slippery, more than you'd think. Here, her right arm shot out with a card. You might have to deal with Blood Money first. He's supposed to be dead. I sank his ship with him on it. Well, maybe his coffin could float, she retorted. The card has information about Morgana and a contact. I wouldn't leave it too long, Ancient Russo. I won't. Take care. Send Cordell my love. I'm sure he's going to be in fits." She barked a laugh and waved her fingers at me. Innocent as a schoolgirl, she wandered over to the street where a dark car waited for her. The driver, a thick-bodied but short Mediterranean-looking man, opened the door for her. Didn't bother to watch much more than the necessary time to see her off safe. Turned on my own car and the lights flashed on in the gloom. I saw several pairs of eyes wink at me from under the lid of a dumpster. A raccoon popped its snout out just a little. I turned my car, but out of the corner of my eye, looked at the glowing eyes in the shadow of the dumpster lid. I could swear one pair of eyes turned from shiny yellow to green, the exact shade of green I know from Violet Hunter. I turned again, the eyes were yellow, shifting in the attention provided by my car's headlights. I honked in high bad temper until they all disappeared. First blood money, then Morgana. Sean Russo, signing off. For now.
Pinkerton's Ghosts is a podcast distributed by Superversive Radio, licensed under an attribution non-commercial, share-alike international license. This episode was written by Anthony Marchetta and is performed by the same. Ben Wheeler edits, directs, produces, and herds cats. Kid Dickerson performs our audio editing. Visit us on Facebook, read articles on superversivesf.com, or listen to us on unauthorized Acast, iTunes, or Spotify. Contact us through Twitter at Pinkerton's Ghost, email us at pinkertonsghosts@gmail.com, or send us noble messenger possums with messages strapped to their backs. Don't worry, they know how to find us. Thank you for listening, and good luck.